You getting audio? Yeah? Alrighty.
Okay, James. Can you explain the connections you find between metal music and progressive music?
Well, I mean, I think it's more apparent today in contemporary progressive music that the two have intertwined, you know. And definitely with a band like Dream Theater, you're going to find that there are a lot of metal elements within our music. It's not just progressive. But at the same time, there's other styles of music. There's classical, there's even jazz, there's just your straightforward hard rock. So it allows the band to be very diverse and allows the band to be very extremely dynamic, you know, in that sense, both musically and vocally. But I think it's more prevalent today where the metal has come together or fused together with the progressive, more so than in the 70s. In the 70s, you didn't really hear bands that were metalling out at the same time as being progressive. It just, the two didn't really necessarily, you know, collide, so to speak. So, but today it's definitely more apparent when you hear a lot of the progressive bands of today, you know. But they bring in a lot of elements musically, yeah.
Okay. In the last two records before Train of Two, the sound of your band was getting closer and closer to classic progressive bands like the 70s, like Pink Floyd, like Rush, Genesis, and now you have radically changed your way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, one thing with Dream Theater, I think that's always been our signature is that, you know, we've always approached each and every album with a direction that will take us down new paths. It'll be experimental once again. It'll be even risky at times, you know. But I think that's what allows us to be the kind of band that we have been since the beginning, is that we never want to see ourselves repeating ourselves or become boring. We always want to challenge ourselves and bring ourselves into new water so that we can give to the fans something that's, you know, not so predictable, something that's unexpected, something that keeps it fresh and keeps it exciting and new. So that's why, you know, even from Scenes from a Memory going into 6 Degrees was a different, even though you could still tell it was Dream Theater, you know. And the same thing with this. I mean, this is, when you go this far with an album such as Train of Thought, it becomes controversial. It can't help but be controversial because it's so blatantly heavy, you know. It's a very aggressive, heavy metal, hard-hitting album. But, you know, that's the first element that hits you musically. But as you listen to the songs and throughout the entire album, as it unfolds, you'll realize there still are the very progressive elements in there. There still are the technical aspects and complex aspects, you know, aspects of the music. So it's just it just seems to be what ensures that we're staying true to ourselves. You know, the integrity has to come first and foremost. And that's what really best describes this band, you know, is that we don't want to just try and play it safe, or that, you know, it doesn't make any sense for us to any longer be doing what we're doing, you know. Yeah.
Dream Theater is a band with an unusual interest in renewing your own sound. But some people say that all rock possibilities was invented in the 70s. What do you think can be the way for a new rock in the early 20th century? I know it's a hard question.
Well, explain it again because I didn't quite hear you properly. They said what? Yeah, say it again. Yeah.
Many people say that all rock styles are exhausted in the 70s. Yeah? And you are a band that reflects a lot about your own music. What do you think can be the way for a new rock in the early 20th century?
Well, you know, like, I mean, in the 70s, definitely, I mean, you had all these new bands coming out, and it was the golden era of progressive music, especially. But, you know, I think there's been a lot of fantastic music written since then. I don't think that, and definitely going into the new millennium, I think it's bands like ourselves and bands that we haven't heard from yet that will be just as interesting and musically creative and brilliant as bands were thought of as in the 70s. I think it's not really giving enough credit to the fact that bands coming up, there will be gems along the many thousands that come along. There will be one or two gems here and there that really create an exciting sound that should be viewed just like it was back in the 70s, that it's exciting, it's new, it's very creative, it's musically tasteful. And I think that will always continue. I think that, you know, to say that it won't and that there's no area to explore is just trying to say that, you know, everything's been done, so why bother? No, there's still a lot to be explored musically, you know, and it's only going to come from what the future unfolds, you know. Yeah.
It's a difficult question, but
it is, but there's my explanation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think are the valors that fans see in Dream Theater?
What do I what?
The valors that your fans.
The powers?
No, the valors and like the techniques or the harmonies. Or what your fans love about us?
Oh, what they love about Dream Theater? I mean, just our music, you know. I think that's first and foremost. I think they, you know, as crazy as it sounds, I mean, that's definitely what first and foremost attracts people to come to our shows and want to really feel it live and see us in the flesh, you know. But definitely at first, the relationship always begins with the music, and usually that's first and foremost heard from the CDs. And I think that they've found through listening to whether it be their first album that they buy, and then going and actually researching and listening to more of the catalog of Dream Theater, I think that's what really makes them become incredibly loyal. I mean, our fan base around the world is unbelievable. You know, it's definitely fanatical. You know, like they are, once they've come into the fold and they've started to come to Dream Theater shows and buy Dream Theater albums, it's almost like it's definitely a long-term relationship. And you know, each time that we've gone out touring to support any given studio release, we see the numbers increasing. We're playing in front of more and more people. So it's always on a nice gradual ascent, you know. And it's definitely, I think it just comes from the fact that people really appreciate what we do, what we stand for musically as a band. And it's created a very loyal and faithful following, you know, and we're in a very beautiful and unique situation. And we realize that. We never take it for granted. We realize just how good this is, you know. Yeah.
Last question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that exists a consolidated progressive circuit, like hardcore circuit or heavy metal circuit?
What are you saying? Circuit?
Circuit, a market.
Oh, circuit.
A circuit.
Oh, okay. So what did you say there? Say it again.
Bueno, if you think that exists a consolidated circuit.
Circuit. Oh.
Circuit.
Uh-huh.
A progressive circuit, like hardcore circuit,
Uh-huh.
or heavy metal circuit.
Well, I mean, you know, obviously, because of today's popular music out there, I mean, there's more attention given to the pop idols, you know, the bubblegum music. And so obviously, I mean, the progressive world is observed in almost an underground sense, but it isn't. It's a very huge market. It's just it's not given the forefront like other more obvious music is. Just because it's the nature of the beast. It just seems to be that for the masses, most people just want to hear a beat and nothing else to it. Whereas with, but people now, because of technology today and the internet, it's really allowed people to do their own research and to say, you know, if I don't like what I'm hearing or seeing on TV, then I can always go and use the internet as a vehicle to really find what's out there, you know, musically. Because it's really a misinterpretation or a misrepresentation, is better said. What you see on TV and what you hear on most radio isn't necessarily what represents music today. There's a lot of music going on that doesn't get a fair shake, doesn't get any attention brought to it. But if people are willing to spend a little time and, you know, broaden their horizons as far as what other kind of music is out there, they'll find that there's a lot of great bands out there. There's a lot of great, very inventive, innovative music, you know. And so with something like Dream Theater, I mean, we're in a very, you know, advantageous situation as far as the progressive circuit goes, because we're, you know, at the top of the heap. But it's only because people have taken the time to really search it out, and not necessarily finding out about us through the usual media exports, you know. So it's kind of, but I think it is a generous number. Like, there are quite a few people that are involved or interested or that love progressive music, you know, or bands like ourselves, very similar to a band like us. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. What's going on out there? Oh boy, got to keep them out of the hallway. That's too loud.
It's all, no.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.